Detailing your engine may seem like one of the scariest things to do because it seems like if you got water in there, it would likely destroy something, cause a short, fry your ECU, whatever you might be thinking. However, you might notice that there's daylight coming through into your engine bay. It's not actually a sealed component, and it is meant to be able to take some amount of water in without causing problems. So today I'll show you the tools you need to do this successfully without it turning into a nightmare. The biggest thing to do is to follow some basic common sense when you're washing your engine. You definitely want to make sure you're working on a cool engine. You should be able to touch any of these components without burning your hand. It should feel cool to the touch. Also, park your car somewhere in the shade. Avoid working in direct sunlight. Absolutely never wash your engine while it's running or while it's hot. You definitely don't want to spray cold water on a hot engine. You could thermal shock and crack and break components, possibly including the engine block. You don't want to spray directly into the ECU down here, and you don't want to spray directly onto this fuse box or into these ignition components here. You can still spray around, you just don't want to come up real close and blast high pressure water in there. You also want to be working with right around 1,000 psi, more or less, but definitely not a gas or very high power electric pressure washer. You should check the manufacturer manual. They often will tell you how to wash the engine bay. Ford, for example, specifically calls out using engine degreasers. They say that it's a good idea to keep your engine clean. They do recommend covering up your main electrical connectivity here, as well as your intake. Now in my case, my intake goes well into the fender here. It's buried in there. No water's getting there. I don't need to worry about it. If you do have an open style intake that kind of has a big cup opening here, you don't want to pour water in there. A lot of water will definitely damage or hydrolock your engine. It is a myth that just a few drops will do it. That doesn't really happen. The battery's tucked away back there. We're not going to be spraying under there where the battery is. And I think as long as I avoid directly spraying in here, we should be okay. Modern cars are all designed to have watertight or water resistant connections. The first thing I like to do is use a vacuum cleaner to get all the big debris and stuff out of here. Next, I like to blow all the other debris out of the way that the vacuum cleaner didn't get. Now we can prep our chemicals for the wash, which takes us to today's sponsor. I've teamed up with Vonixx to create a series of detailing how-to videos featuring reviews of their products. Vonixx has been a hugely popular brand in South America, and it's exciting to see them making their way into the US market. Make sure to check out the links in the description and use my code DG10 for a discount. Specifically, we'll be using this V-Energy ceramic coating to give the engine a nice shine, and to prep for the coating, we're going to be using this degreaser, which will help us get all this grime out of the way. So I've got exactly 1 liter in the sprayer, and we're going to do a 10-to-1 dilution. So we're going to do 100 milliliters of the degreaser. That's 50, and that's 50 more. We will also use some of our Adams Blue shampoo that I use for all my car washes, and I'll explain why in a little bit. To get started, we'll blast all the gunk and crud off the engine bay, and I'm not going to be bringing it right close to the equipment. I'm going to be spraying at some distance and moving. Let's start the degreaser on the hood here. I like to use a nice brush to get us started, and you can already tell just how much gross stuff there is. I think that's from belt slippage on my supercharger. How much better is that already? Now keep in mind, there's some scuffs, that's not dirt. Now we're just throwing degreaser in the engine bay, and this is good to do a couple of times a year. Sure does make things easier to work on, especially for you or your mechanic if you're working under the hood. With the degreaser applied, I like to throw on some shampoo. This will give us more dwell time with the product and more working time overall. I'm sure at this point everything looks like a crazy mess, but there is method to the madness, and we're going to use some brushes to start detailing this. Work one area at a time, get into all the nooks and crevices that you can with a big brush. And what I like to do is once I'm done with a section, I will come back and use a little brush and then move on to the next section. And look, we're not doing a showroom finish, we're just washing the engine. A lot of this will come off without having to get under there and clean. If you feel like things are getting dry, feel free to throw on more foam, more degreaser, whatever you need to do. It's nice to have a clean engine bay, especially when you work on the car. It does make a big difference. Makes it easier to see everything. Once you're happy with the result, start to wash things off, and again, keep moving and keep a distance. And now I like to blow dry things a little bit just to get a lot of the water that's sitting still out of the way. And just to show you guys that nothing's getting ruined in here, let's pop this cover off and look, it is bone dry in here. There is not a speck of water. They do engineer these pretty well. We are living in, you know, this was 2016 when this came out, but this was in the 1970s or 60s or something. Cars are fairly well thought through these days. I did not do a very good job of cutting that, and then I didn't do a very good job of painting it. I was a younger man then. One thing to watch out for, guys, is some of this sheet metal can be really sharp, so be careful when you're in here. Don't slice your hand open. The engine bay is looking fantastic, guys. Some of the plastics, you know, they have a little wear. Maybe some of the rubber does too, but we're gonna treat that with that Vonixx coating and see how they end up looking once we pull it inside the garage. For now, how about I start the engine and show you guys this thing actually still works. Oh, power's on. That's a good sign. I think everything works, guys. No check engine lights. Throttle responds. My computer works. Radio works. Gauges that are wired in by me magically work. I'm impressed that the stuff I wired is watertight. Now I'll finish washing the rest of the car. We'll take it inside and we'll apply the Vonixx coating. I'm back in the garage, the car is dry, it's ready for coating. And let's take a look at what we get with this V-Energy from Vonixx. And in the box, we got our coating and we got some nice applicators. I like the branding on the applicator, that's a nice touch. You wanna make sure you shake the product up very well. Let's try it on this surface here. This is a good prime example. There's scuffs, there's scratches, there's fading. And the way I'm gonna approach it is I'm first gonna prime the pad by applying a bit more product than I normally would. The instructions on this product are pretty simple. Essentially, we're gonna wipe the thing on and then we're gonna leave it. It is possible to wipe it on and then take it off with a terry cloth within the first couple of minutes if you want a more natural matte finish. However, some of my surfaces have seen better days. I've obviously slid a lot of tools around on some of this plastic. I'm told this is good on the rubber as well, not just the plastic. Now, there is an alternate way of applying this product, and you can use a paint spray gun and essentially just aerosolize the product on, and that way you can reach, you know, down there and all kinds of places I'm not going to be able to reach into with my sponge. I'm already really digging the look of that. I hope it stays that nice black color. And we're sort of using this as a ceramic dressing, I'd say, more even than a coating, since we're kind of leaving it in. I'm kind of curious if we can restore this pipe. It's really faded and it's looking, actually I kind of think it always looked that way. I think it was always this weird patterny rubber that didn't look great. And I'm kind of curious if we go pretty deep on it and really coat it, if it can look less trash. If it stays black like that, I would be pretty happy. Let's get the cap over here. I'm not gonna go through and do some of the really deep stuff. My goal is not to win a car show. My goal is to have a good looking engine under here. Little lipstick on the pig, as we call it. You can get the hoses like I'm doing here. I really hope it stays dark like that. That looks so good. Get over here and do this trim. Work around the car as parts dry. You may not want to just get this all over you. I took out the second sponge. The other one was getting a little torn up. Get over here on this metal. When you're done, give everything a good look over. You might have missed things. You might see like, hey, there's a hose under there that could look good. Definitely want to try the spray-on method. It seems like it has some advantages of getting into stuff like this. Now we can get in here and try to do the valve cover. Don't know how well it'll work because my fingers and hands are pretty big, but we'll get what we can get. Now we can get in here and get this intake manifold at least what's accessible on it. It's not gonna make much difference. This is like cast aluminum or something, but it's worth getting in there wherever we can. Now that I've had the chance to use both the Vonixx Impact and the Vonixx V-Energy, I can tell you they're both good products. I have used other degreasers in the past. There's several that I really like. However, this one did a terrific job. I think the engine came out really clean, as we saw in the video. And then the V-Energy, I think, really made all the hoses and all the plastics pop. They look terrific. When we step back and look at what we've accomplished under the hood, it's clear that it is a huge improvement over what we had before. We still have plenty of fluid left. I think Vonixx says it's about 15 milliliters per car, which is probably about what I use to do this. The reason I really recommend you try this for yourself rather than just watching videos or thinking, oh, I don't have time, who cares, is because it is so powerful once you see it. Even on a relatively low mile specimen like this car, it was never really daily driven. It's got 7-something thousand miles on it. It's a 2016. You would think it wouldn't be very dirty in here. And I've washed the engine bay maybe a couple of times since I've bought the vehicle. But it creeps up on you. You don't realize just how gross it is in there until you perform this kind of wash. Then suddenly you realize, wow, I've been driving around with a super dirty engine bay. And I guarantee once you try this for the first time, you'll realize what a remarkable transformation this is, seeing it in person. I really hope my video's shown you that cleaning your engine bay and your engine isn't some scary, sketchy thing that's gonna ruin your car. It's easier than you think, and once it becomes part of your routine, you'll spend 15 to 30 minutes doing it every time you do it. Not bad at all. Occasionally you might throw a coating on there, take you a little longer. If you've enjoyed this video, remember to click subscribe, leave me a nice comment and a thumbs up. Let me know what your experience has been washing engines. Is there another process that you like better? I could always learn something new. As I mentioned earlier, this is part of a mini-series I'm doing with the team at Vonixx, and we'll be putting out a whole bunch more tutorial videos showing you tips and tricks. There's always more to learn. It's such a big, exciting hobby and profession. Make sure to stick around for future videos. I would love to see you again really soon.